So college football season is back, right?
It
And
is.
I, like most people, was very intrigued, to say the least, to see what would happen with our boy, six-time Super Bowl champion Bill Belichick. And Chapel Bill was not a Chapel thrill. I think as far as absolute failure after game one. And, but I am so excited that this sport is back where you could have a six-time Super Bowl winning coach just get egg on his face from what someone called the giddy up, hokey pokey spread offense of Sonny Dykes. And I'm here for it.
So I'm going to be honest. I did not watch last night's game. For those of you, we are recording on Tuesday, September 2nd. So I did not watch last night's game. I was in a different fantasy draft than the league in which Alex and I are drafting in tomorrow. But I saw Alex's message in a different group chat, and I was like, oh, 7-7. I should probably turn this on. A couple minutes later, I was like, oh, 17-7.
And 30
I'll
minutes
check in
later,
at halftime. 41-7
hour or
was
so later, in real
Yeah.
time, UNC completed their next pass.
Yeah, it was.
That was something. College football is back.
Pretty funny. Yeah, I'm happy.
I think Dad has made some excellent progress today.
Your dad, he's a fun guy, right?
And I love him so much, and I think he's the greatest dad in the world.
Welcome back to the Working on the Dad Pod. I'm Alex. With me, as always, is Ethan, who would love to tell you the play-by-play of all of his fantasy drafts. Just ask him. But tonight, we're doing another fantasy draft. So if you enjoyed that content, get ready for some more fire takes.
Yeah.
We have our own fraternity league. Yes, we still do fantasy football with the guys we went to college with half a lifetime ago. But we've got that draft tomorrow night.
What is a fraternity if not just a group of people to meet for a future lifetime fantasy league for?
I don't really know. But tonight we're doing a draft. We've done drafts before, dad-related drafts. We've got something a little different tonight. Tonight, we are doing the dad skills draft. All right. This is a little bit of a nebulous concept. So I hope this is your opportunity. If you are not on YouTube, I highly recommend being on YouTube, if only so you can see the visual as we explain what this draft is. I'm going to throw it up here right now. We've got a dad skills draft. You can pick in any order from the following categories. I'm going to read them out for those of you who are like, I'm driving, I'm not going to throw on YouTube. Infant, toddler, that's category 1. Preschool, elementary, middle, high school, college/adult, one category, and a flex pick that can apply to any age. You do not have to pick in this order. You pick what, just like you would in any sort of fantasy league draft, what you think is providing the most value at that position, right? And so we've got these 7 positions. We're not doing bench, IR, or whatever, because frankly, I'm going to be honest, we're going to struggle to fill our 7 slots. I already can kind of see that coming. We probably need to set some ground rules. Before we set a few of those ground rules and get into this chaos, I know we did have a little bit of story time. This is sort of a odd, fun episode because I am actually traveling on our normal recording night. As Ethan mentioned in our cold, long open, we are recording on a Tuesday night. So do a little story time. We're going to skip working on the dad bod. After story time, we'll get into this draft. So let me get that draft board out of the way. Ethan, I know you had a story. I don't know the details, but I know you had a story time to remember or maybe to forget that you wanted to go over.
Yeah, mine's kind of a downer. So I want to give you the opportunity. If you have a happy story, do you want to get it out of the way, or would?
No, I'll think back on the weekend and let you know.
Okay, so I really wanted to talk about this tonight because it's Tuesday, September 2nd. So we just came off Labor Day weekend. For the most part, it was a great weekend. The University of Miami kicked off its season with a frustrating but solid win over number 6 Notre Dame. My younger daughter turned 3, and we had her birthday party, and everybody had a great time. In addition to the mimosa I referenced in last week's episode, I brought out the local whiskey liqueur coffee flavored whiskey based liqueur for those who wanted to make their coffee a little bit more fun. So, with the Panera box of coffee, people could add some alcohol to it. And then one parent said, I knew you guys would be the fun parents with the alcohol at the party. And I said, look, it's a 3-year-old's birthday party. I don't care if it's my 3-year-old. I'm going to drink at a 3-year-old's birthday party. That's what people do. So that was fun. We got in our last pool day. My wife and I dumped the girls at her mom's yesterday so that we could do a big sweep of a bunch of things that our kids have outgrown that we don't want anymore. Nice. We got my wife posted a bunch of stuff on the Buy Nothing, the listserv. People have been coming since yesterday and today, and they're taking these big items. Somebody took 6 pairs of shoes. Things are great. We are getting rid of stuff. I'm feeling good. And overall, it was a really good weekend. However, last night, I had a really bad dad night.
Was it as bad as Bill Belichick watching his son give up 48 points?
I think it was on par. So what happened was last night, my daughter, after spending the day at her grandma's, after having a pretty jam-packed weekend, after starting kindergarten, she had a moment where the toy that my parents got her sister for her birthday, it was like a fancy form of magnetiles that you can build a Ferris wheel, got knocked over, and she had a massive meltdown, and she just turned awful right away. And I kind of lost it, and she was just yelling at me, and I didn't handle it well. So the screaming, the crying, it carried on into the shower, and it was one of those things where, in addition to her yelling at me, my wife was unhappy with how I was acting, so I was getting it from both ends in an attempt to not give it to our daughter from both ends. And the girls and I are in the shower, and they're screaming and fighting, and I just yelled and I said, "You don't get to talk anymore." And that didn't sound that bad at first, but she then started crying more and more, and I then said, "I don't know why I am being treated like a bad guy. Everybody is just yelling at me. You want a bad guy? I'll be a bad guy. I'm not going to let you talk. Like, if you cry, I'm going to tell you to stop. This is going to be a bad night for you because you made me into a bad guy." And I should not have said that. And I was feeling pretty bad in the moment. And this weird thing happened. So I've been listening to a lot of Star Wars Expanded Universe. So particularly, I know, real out there. Particularly the origins of the dark side. And I always felt that, and quick tangent, I always felt that you don't have to necessarily be evil to use the dark side. If you're not familiar with Star Wars, the Jedi use the light side, which is focus, the Force based on focus and learning and controlling your emotions and logic. The dark side of the Force comes at it from emotion. It's more seductive. You are able to get more powerful. But who's to say that emotions are bad? You can use love to power the dark side. It's an emotion. You can. There's a whole side version of the world where Darth Vader never becomes Darth Vader. He just becomes like Casanova, who can move some stuff. Anyway, in that moment, I felt myself like kind of feeling like I was in two people. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I was feeling the dopamine of just like winning my argument, even though it was against like an almost 6-year-old. I just think about how, had I not failed the LSAT, I probably would have been one of the most cutthroat litigators on the planet, because I find people's weaknesses and I can attack them pretty well. But the reason I felt so badly yesterday was I actually, after my daughter cried and she told her mom that the reason she was so sad was because that I lied, because I'm not a bad guy and I was calling myself a bad guy, I then realized that I wasn't taking my daughter's weaknesses and throwing them back at her. I was actually taking her strengths about what makes her such a special person, making her feel badly about it. And I didn't realize that till after the fact, when my wife and I are doing her preschool about your kid questionnaire. And they said, please describe your daughter. And I'm just writing down like kind, generous, helpful, loving. And I actually started crying because I realized that in the shower, when I was telling her to stop talking, some of the things she was saying and defying like her orders on, and I hate that saying, but like she was disobeying me telling her to be quiet because she was trying to tell me how to help her sister. And I knew that, and I was still telling her to like stop talking. And I felt really terribly about me getting so caught up in the dark side of my anger that like I did the equivalent of force choking my wife to death. Sorry, spoiler of episode 3, of making a little girl cry when she was just trying to be a good big sister. Then I started crying last night, and this morning, I mean, but before my daughter went to bed, I did give her a very heartfelt apology. And it was one of the first times that I can remember in a while of her just staring at me and actually listening to me talk to her without like fidgeting and without, looking around the room or interrupting and asking questions. She was genuinely listening to the apology, which is good. But I still feel honestly terrible because I didn't sleep well last night. I just didn't like how I came down and what it felt like to realize I was being mean and, in my mind, a bad dad. And today she was kind of pretty terrible, but I never lost it today because all I could think about yesterday was how I felt yesterday going to sleep knowing what I did. And I never raised my voice tonight. I was calm. She never really had like a meltdown. She was just really wild. And I hope that if I keep thinking about how badly I felt for a while, because I don't know when it's going to go away, I'm definitely going to stew on it. That's the kind of person I am. I'm hoping that I will stop reliving the moment, but it'll help me, I don't know, control my emotions a little bit better. So that was a very long-winded saying that yesterday I felt like I was a really bad dad. I wanted to get that off my chest. And I know I'm not always the only one, but it really taught me a lot about myself and how I need to use my power for good, I think. So I'm going to stop talking now.
Yeah. I mean, that was a lot. I mean, the Star Wars analogy was something in there. It wasn't like your performance last night wasn't perfect. You got there in the end. I feel that, right? On a basic level. I think there's a lot going on there, aside from the like litigator comments and wanting to win an argument. I also think that there's a very real thing of like our oldest kids are in this stage now where they can have slightly more elevated conversations with us, but not always where we need them to be, and not always reading the social cues of like when they need to be having them, right? And so like my daughter wants to be very helpful a lot of times. She wants to prove that she's a big kid. quite often, right? And I don't always I have to figure out ways to try and tell her quickly before she bull rushes ahead and does the thing of that's not what I need from you right now. I understand what you're trying to accomplish, but I don't need that. And it's not always that calm, because sometimes, quite simply, call it what you will, but it's overstimulation, right? I need 30 seconds to 60 seconds of not talking about or dealing with this right now. I need to not solve this right now because the world will not end, but I need to collect myself so that we can move forward as the grown-up here. And while I get that you're trying to be helpful, it's not right this second. In 60 seconds, it would be helpful. When I'm ready to hear that, it would be helpful. But that's really hard to say when you are overstimulated in that moment, needing 30 to 60 seconds, not getting 30 to 60 seconds, and trying to explain to someone who's also got heightened emotions at the time, just give me a minute, you know? And I have tried to use that phrase with my daughter. Still takes it way too literally. She will ask the smart home device to set a timer for 1 minute when I say that. And I just go, homie, that is not what that means, right? I get it, you know, and I realize I just said 60 seconds here on this podcast, but I get it that sometimes you just need to exhale and think. And I have taken to the, bandit healer mode of touching them to be understand that this move means I hear you talking and I'm not in a position to respond, whether it's because I'm having a conversation with someone else, which is obviously a pain point with young kids, but also when I'm collecting myself, because it is something that I have had to work on a lot of having these floods of emotions and anger and wanting to just yell out. And my daughter does the same thing. And frankly, I might be tipping my draft board here later, but modeling the behavior that I want her to see, because she will come back and tell me that I did exactly what I'm telling her not to do. And I don't and it's happened. And I don't want to put myself in that position of going, okay, you're right. That wasn't right. And not giving her an excuse to do it because that's not how I'm doing it. And it takes a lot of work, and it unfortunately takes repetitions. And those aren't the kind of things you want reps at, right? Blowing your top off. But I mean, I think all things, if you learn from it and you figure out okay, this is what I'm going to do next time, and down to the crux of it, not just the I am so prone to arguing and I like to do this and these sort of absolutes, but just I am overstimulated and I know that when I get in an argument, this is what's going to happen and I am not going to be my best self. What can I do to prevent that from happening? And for me, the answer is forcing myself to take a breath, to take a step back, and understand that if I wait 1 minute or 2 minutes, literally, that I can come at this in a different way. I've talked to my daughter about it, visually, of a stop sign, of that two body experience that you've talked about, blowing past the stop sign in your mind because you're I know I shouldn't go here, and then you go anyway. Stopping at that stop sign and going, okay, I need to look left, look right, and then proceed slowly.
Right.
And and so, I mean, that's kind of what works for me, and maybe that'll work for you in some of those situations, but that's really, where I've tried to go with a lot of those, because I don't think you're unique in wanting to fly off the handle when your kids get super emotional. They don't calm down. You're trying everything in the book. You've thrown out all your best plays. Nothing's working. And you just need stuff done, right? You need them showered. You need them going to bed. You need them to not be freaking out, right? It's the same thing of like the dinner table stuff of like, you need them to not be, you need them to eat. You need them to eat food. You don't need them to necessarily definitely eat the food that you got, right? It's all those kinds of things of like figuring out you need this thing and you need it to happen and you're just trying to get there and you're at the end of your day and it's been a long weekend because you've planned a kid's birthday party. You've been clearing out stuff and posting to Facebook Marketplace or Buy Nothing groups or whatever. And it's just like, man, I need a breather. And I know that breather's coming, but like, I just need the finish line to not feel like a mountain.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't have a much more like uplifting story. I will say mine's maybe not as negative, but last week we were talking a little bit about my wife and her proclivity for wanting to plan travel. And one of the key cruxes of this that I think I did mention last week is that my wife very much, her preference on parenting is like, she likes having the kids out of the house because they're not making a mess. They're not getting in fights with each other as much. They're out of the house. And my take is like, I feel like travel. I like traveling with my kids. I like going places with them. I like sharing new experiences. But I also feel like traveling is parenting an away game.
Yep.
I have home court advantage. I have all of my stuff. I have their beds. I have my tools. Like I mentioned, our Alexa announces things on different cadences so they know it's time to clean up. It's time for snack. It's time to brush teeth. And I don't even have to be the one announcing it. And it doesn't come as a surprise. And like, I have like fine-tuned our house to be a machine where I need it to be. And so I feel that home court advantage. And I feel like going out of town is just like taking that advantage away. And so my wife last week, she comes to me and she's like, hey, you know, in this vein of like always wanting to travel, she's like, hey, what if we went up to these springs? There are some natural springs up near Orlando. What if we went there? There's some cheap hotels. Like we go there over Labor Day and do this, that, and the other with the kids. And I was like, and we had a conversation about the travel that I have an open door policy to like say no and talk about it instead of what I normally do is go, okay, and then begrudgingly go and then get frustrated that like, I don't have the home court advantage. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. That seems complicated last minute. And like, while I think they would enjoy that, I think we can figure out some things to do here. And she goes, well, you know, let's meet in the middle. And I was like, okay, here's what I want. I want the kids to sleep in their own bed. I want to be at our house some this weekend. I'm off on Monday for a holiday. I'm out Thursday and Friday. I've got a 2-day work week. I'm feeling a lot of like just stress in general with my own travel that my wife and kids aren't going on this weekend. And I get she's feeling stress of like, she's got a solo parent for 4 days. But I'm like, I don't want to do this. So I came up with a game plan and I was like, okay, on Saturday, we're going to go up to a town, a couple towns north of us called Fort Pierce. They've got a great farmer's market on Saturday mornings. Robust, lots of food stalls, some vendors. It's situated right next to the public library. So there's a place you can go in, read some books, cool down if it gets too hot. There's a brewery a couple blocks away that's within walking distance. So we can park once, do that. And then I was like, and then after that, we can go to the St. Lucie Mets game. They got a fireworks night. First pitch is at 6 o'clock, a little more reasonable. And then we can get home a little bit later, let the kids stay out. And my wife had contended all this time that she does not feel this away game thing. She thinks the kids are much more engaged with what they're doing. They're fighting a lot less and parenting them is easier. She likes the road games. I like the home games. It brings me no joy to say that my Saturday proved me right. It brings me no joy to say that it was constantly threatening. Like we didn't see fireworks at the St. Lucie Mets game. We went home. We showed them fireworks on my wife's phone in the parking lot as we were leaving before the 7th inning stretch. Like it brings me no joy to say that the day, while okay, proved all of my hunches right, that they were just rough, that it was just parenting on an away game, spending more money on food because we weren't using up our own groceries, like we were eating out, this, that, and the other. totally fine. I get that. That was baked in, still cheaper than the hotel room and the travel that my wife was proposing, but like I didn't sit down to the baseball game till like the top of the third inning because I was like getting hot dogs and popcorn, and there was like it was back to school night, and so they had all these like local kids charities and things like with tables with freebies, and I'm like, fine, I am not here to like deeply absorb myself in the St. Lucie Mets versus the Lakeland Flying Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to watch some baseball because it would be fun, but like I am not gonna like throw a fit because we're here to see my favorite team or anything like that. But yeah, Saturday really did prove me right. Luckily Sunday we went to the local water park. That was a little bit better, but that's more contained. There wasn't as much travel, and the kids got to do what they wanted to do. We went with some friends, so they had friends. There were 4 adults, 4 kids. We could, play a little defense. And my daughter's old enough and mature enough to like go on the big slides by herself without supervision. So kind of doing their own thing. She's tall enough to like stand in the lazy river. So it's just sort of like, okay, just let us know where you're at, kind of vibes. But yeah, Saturday was like a win and a loss for me.
Sure.
I didn't enjoy being right.
Right. No, I feel like that happens a lot. And I don't mean that about you. No, I'm saying that somebody once told me when I first got married, they were like, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? And I wanted to believe that I could be both. But I feel like being right, there's not a benefit in the long run.
Not usually. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that I will say.
Yeah.
I didn't say this to my wife. She said it to me. She didn't come like groveling. Like we're still making vacation plans left, right, and center, but I think it has changed a little bit of the calculus of like necessarily needing them out of the house, and it's definitely going to be better. Right. And just on like an any given Saturday kind of vibe, like needing to be out of the house. And I was just like, yeah, like I agreed with her sentiment because it was not like, and I told her as much, like, I was like, I didn't like, there's no like beating my chest over like, yeah, today kind of sucked. Kids were hard. Like it wasn't a win. It was nice to go like, okay, now we can move forward a little bit more on the same page with like future Saturdays and how we plan them, with maybe not like trying to, because she really wanted to like get up, get ready, get the kids out the door and not return until bedtime. Like that was her ideal. And I was like, I think, I get that this was meeting in the middle between traveling to a different city for the whole weekend versus staying home all weekend. But like, maybe we can meet in the middle and like have a morning out or an afternoon out and like mitigate some of the damage they might do on the home court, but also not like overstay, because it was very clear by the time like 2 or 3 o'clock rolled around. Like I spent 45 minutes driving around Fort Pierce with my wife attempting to nap and coaching our kids to like fall asleep so they could stay through the game. And I'm pretty sure my wife was the only one who dozed off. Right. Meanwhile, I'm trying to keep it together. I had had like 2 beers over 3 hours, completely safe to drive, but also at the same time, like you're playing lullabies on the car speaker system as I'm driving around the city going, okay, like that's not exactly like the medicine I would have taken before, doing this. So
man, nah. The fact that she's the one that dozed off is icing on the cake.
I mean, she was trying to. She wanted to nap. She wanted them to nap, and like they were just sort of like, when are we going to get there? When are we going to get there? And they had no concept of time. So they're like, when are we going to get to the baseball game? I'm like, it's 3 o'clock. We've got 3 hours to the first pitch. We're not trying to be there.
You're a better man than me, because if I were in your shoes and she was like, I want a nap, I'd be like, no. You're the one that wanted to be out all day. You're the one that didn't want the comfort of home. I'm gonna nap and you can drive.
I was feeling more energetic.
Sure. No. I'm saying I would have been extremely petty and sarcastic.
Also enjoy the home court where like on yesterday on Monday, my son, I could tell he needed to nap. He's done this thing where he goes to school 3 days a week and he naps at school, but he doesn't nap when he's with my mother-in-law, and he doesn't nap on the weekends. Like, he's clearly phasing out of the nap phase of his life. And on Monday, we were trying to figure out what to do. My wife and daughter were out of the house, and he was like, oh yeah, I want to go to the hitting bays. Oh yeah, I want to go play in the backyard. Oh, I want to do this, but I'm also kind of tired. And I'm like, you're what now? And so like he was like, I want to get in bed and do what we did last weekend, where we just lay in bed and like watch football or golf until we fall asleep. And I was like, okay. And despite there being college football all weekend, Monday at 2:00 did not have a college football game on.
No.
Luckily, I DVR all the Miami games automatically, so we just watched like the first quarter of Miami Notre Dame, and then we were out for like 2 hours. So I got my nap. She didn't get a nap over the 3-day weekend.
Gotcha. That's cool.
Should we get to the draft? That was like
let's
story time.
Yeah. No, it's people came for a fun episode. They got real talk. So
yeah. So just to recap, everybody, if you're watching on YouTube, if you've arrived at your destination because you were driving earlier, now's a great time to flip on the video. We've got the dad skills draft. So we've got infant, toddler, preschool, elementary, middle, high school, college/adult, and then a flex pick, which can be just a general skill as a dad that you think would be useful. Now, we're not going to live fill this in. We're not that technologically advanced to be dropping them in. We'd need an editor who would have our picks beforehand, because we don't want to share them with each other, because we're going to try and strategize. But what we do have is coin flip.
There we go.
So, Ethan, here's my question to you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a vague skill that I don't think either one of us are drafting because it's maybe not specific enough. Communication, right? Okay. Let's say you pick communication for infant toddler. Is communication off the board, or is it off the board for infant toddler?
It's off the board. So
okay.
So basically, we're treating this very much like a combo of an actual fantasy football team draft and how we did I believe it was the perfect plate cookout draft. Okay. Once you take something, it's done.
That's what I figured.
All right, and then and we're doing snake draft, right?
Yeah, snake draft. So whoever wins this will get the first pick and the fourth pick. Other person will get 2 and 3, and we'll just kind of like alternate back and forth like that. All right. Yep. So we'll have 7 rounds. Ethan, do you want to call it before I flip it?
I'll take tails, please.
Tails never fail.
Tails.
All right. Do you want first pick? I guess that's also the question.
Yeah.
Strategy wise.
I do want first pick. And if you wouldn't mind pulling up the board just so people can follow along. I know we're not adding, but just all right. So with my first pick overall in the dad's skills draft, I'm actually going to use my flex spot. And I'm going to take dad jokes.
Dad jokes. Okay.
Because I feel like
wasn't on my board. You could have had that as a 7th round pick, man.
I know, but my thought was it could be fourth quarter. I could need some big skill points at the end of the game. If I want to be the perfect dad, it doesn't matter the situation. You can always flex in your dad jokes.
Yeah, as dad skills go, it is one of those skills that for most of these age groups will actually repulse your kids. So if that's what you're going for, I guess that'll work. All right. So for me, I am going to make my first pick what I think is maybe the most difficult parenting age. And we haven't been there, but I hear stories, anecdotes. For high school, I am putting in mentoring not managing.
Okay.
And so that's a specific skill of making that transition from somebody who is like dictating every facet of a child's life to giving them guidance, but letting them foster their independence because they are about to leave the nest, whether they're going to college, trade school, traveling, just graduating high school and going out on their own, whatever they're doing. Typically, they're about to leave the nest after high school. And so I think that mentoring and making that transition, evolving that relationship is one of the key things, because I think if you try to hang on to the manager title too long, that's one potential cause of like high school rebellion, because they feel like they're under your thumb more than they're just, you're there when you need them. All right.
That's a really good pick. And I like that you started, older, you know, I was actually, I was going to do the same. So go for it.
And then I think the next one that I'm going to go with, I'm also going to stick in the older category for middle school. And I've got a little table here, so I'm typing them in.
Yeah.
And this is not terribly dissimilar, but I think it's super helpful. In middle school, listening without judgment. All right. Bodies are changing, minds are changing. They're starting to, be attracted to other human beings on a different level. They're starting to like not understand their bodies. Their emotions are getting a lot more complex. If you see Inside Out 2, you'll know exactly what I mean, right? There's just a lot more going on. It's not just like happy, sad, there's anxiety mixed in there and all sorts of other bigger, more complex emotions going on. And your ability to like listen without judgment, I think, is another one of those big transition phases of like, okay, if they're not judging me for all my actions or trying to come down on me for everything, but listening, that helps pave the way to move into that mentor relationship and really sets you up to, just continue a solid relationship. Because I do think as a parent, the onus is on you to evolve how you parent that person. They are changing. They can't help that. That is their biology at work. They are growing into the human they are going to be. And so it is on you to adapt to them, not them to adapt to you.
I think that's great. So for those of you for those of you listening and watching, I've used my flex category. Alex has taken high school and middle school. And now with my second pick, I'm actually going to go college adult. And I think the dad skill set you need is the transition to friend. And what do I mean by that? I think my parents are pretty darn good parents to my brother and I as adults, because they, without much complaining on our end, they really handled the transition of parenting to friend quite well, where they know that my brother and I, when we need them to be parents, we'll ask them. But for the most part, they treat us like peers. They treat us like friends. They probably very much enjoy being able to talk about things going on in the world. They probably enjoy cursing without having to be like, oops. But for the most part, they know that when we need a parent, we'll tell them. And they trust us as peers and adults to be friends with us. And we can have fun. We can drink. We can eat. We can talk about what's going on. And I think that that's really important for some of the healthier relationships.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. Honestly, I wrote down like 3 things for each category.
Yeah.
That I wanted to have. And that really actually envelops 2 of my 3 picks in that category. Being a trusted advisor, right? Offering wisdom when asked, but not dictating. And then respecting adult choices. So treating them as equals, even when they're doing something different than what your path maybe would have been. And I think that's kind of wrapped up very nicely in what you did. So you've got the fifth pick.
All right. So all right, you've already done high school and middle school, so I'm gonna dip into preschool actually. And I think that one of the best skills as a dad that you can have with a preschool age kid is top-notch playing ability. Enjoying play, creative play, just stamina play, really just leaning into being able to play, because frankly, that's the most you can do with them on an engagement level. You're not having in-depth conversation. They might not be able to read yet. Their vocabulary is limited, but man, you can play, you can have fun. And so I'm taking playing for my preschool skill set.
All right. So that's good. I think in the spirit of, because you've taken one of my preschools, you've taken really two of my college/adult ones, and that's fine. So I think I'm going to use the next two picks in the two that we haven't covered yet. So there's no picks in baby/toddler, and there's no picks in elementary. So I'm going to start in elementary. Encouraging curiosity is where I'm going.
Okay.
Because I think that is such a valuable skill as they go from this little kid that needs, that needs their butt wiped, really, needs so much done for them, into somebody who's like learning with the world, and like they're not an adult and there's so much they don't know. But instead of just telling them what it is, letting them understand it. My daughter absolutely loves like telling me things, like asking me trivia questions about things she's learned at school, right? And having more engaging discussions about simple concepts. But like, quite frankly, in my wife and I's travel stuff, right, one of the trips we considered taking that we didn't end up taking, but we were considering a trip to Italy next summer with the kids to go to Naples and go see the ruins of Pompeii, because my daughter had done a research project last year on Pompeii and everything that was going on. And she was so hyped about it. And she was like, I really want to go see it. And my wife was like, if you build a trip of like what you would want to do and what you would want to see, we can see if we can take that. And she did. And we worked together on crafting some stuff. And for those that are like, but she said you're not taking it, correct, because she and her brother voluntarily looked at that and then compared it with a Disney cruise and chose the Disney cruise. So like that was their decision not to take it, but it's still going to be on the table for, a different, bigger family trip. But yeah, so then I'm going to go baby toddler. All right. And I think as a dad, and obviously speaking in traditional heterosexual relationships here, but I am going to say supporting the mom and the partner. I think especially in those baby years, right? Especially in those baby years. And even I noticed this when my kids were toddlers, like they gravitate towards mom just because she is comfortable. There's such a connection there, especially, I don't want to say especially, but I from my experience when the child's breastfeeding, right, there's a like chemical bond going on a lot of levels that they gravitate towards mom, and being there to support her. That's one of the things that like I was just like, okay, I can't breastfeed at night. I can't do a lot of these things. The child, our children want you and want to be comforted by you no matter what I do and how well I emulate you. So my role when my kids were babies especially was like I slept in a different room a lot of the time for the sole reason of like we made the decision of like I should be fresh so that I can make sure that the house and everybody is running at full steam. I can be the support system and the backstop because she's the one that can do that stuff at night. That just, I wasn't trying not to do it. We came to that consensus of just like, hey, she's like, I'm going to go to bed at 8 and I'm going to wake up at like 6 and I'm going to be woken up a bunch in the middle of the night And I'd rather close the door and have the kid in the room with me and let you have free reign of the house to be, packing lunches, preparing foods, like getting things ready for the next day, cleaning, doing chores, whatever. And like, that was how I brought the most value. So supporting mom/partner is, if you are in a relationship where you're not the birth parent, I think that's a
Sure.
almost underrated skill to have.
I actually think it's great because it's like a very conceptual, encompassing skill. When I was putting together my draft board for infant toddler, I was thinking like actual skill sets, like being really good at diapers and just knowing that like the chances of a blowout are like low when you do it, or mastering the bottle feeding because mom needs a break. And then I thought of another one, but I get 2 picks right now. So
Correct.
I'm actually going to pivot back to elementary school just because I think it's a more value pick. And I want to take this very seriously with average draft position and all that stuff. So for elementary school, and I'm going to get there in about a month when it starts, but homework support.
Yeah.
Once your kid is in elementary school, you're not very much involved in their education anymore. In the same way that you were with preschool, with the,
right.
The drop off, the direct contact, the small knit community. But I do remember growing up that like homework support is really where you as a parent can help enhance the education. And, I remember a very, very old Kobe Bryant interview where somebody asked him, it was a profile, and they said, what do you Google? And he goes, what do I Google? And they say, well, most do you Google your stats? Do you Google like your news? And he goes, the only thing I Google is algebra so I can help my daughter, because otherwise I don't really care what's going on. And I thought that was like, obviously I care about what's going on in the world, but it's just very interesting that, even Kobe Bryant, all he wanted to do, like when he was home, was be the best dad he could be. And, how do you do that? You help your kids with school. So I really wanted to take homework support because I feel like that's the way I'll be able to still be hands-on with my kids learning and also being able to help them. And it's going to be on me to make sure that I'm still able to do the work that they're learning so that they don't fall behind. So, yeah.
I like that.
Thank you. All right. So I have left infant, toddler, high school, and middle school. So one really good skill that I think is needed in middle school. And I'm going to, it's more of a defensive skill, but it's one word. It's toughness. Middle school kids can suck. They're not great. Sure. I know this having been one that wasn't great. I know this as somebody who is a part-time substitute teacher for the county. Not great. You got to be strong. You got to be tough. You got to realize that, as Alex mentioned, there's a lot going on. Alex said, listening without judgment. Frankly, sometimes it's not even about listening without judgment. You're just going to hear a lot of things that might hurt, but you got to remember that they're going through a lot. So toughness, keeping your cool, not letting it break you, is the dad skill I think you need for a middle schooler.
Yeah, I had that one on my draft board, slightly flipped to modeling confidence, right? Showing how to like handle insecurity and peer pressure. But I think, when I wrote it, I also, in the face of whatever they're going to say, to bar about you and get you.
Right.
So yeah, I like that one a lot. All right. So I've got preschooler, college, adult, and flex. And because I think flex can kind of go anywhere, I'm going to spend some time on the other two. So for me, I'm going to, in the preschool category, I'm going to go modeling patience, right? I think this is such a big thing. I've talked about this with my daughter and the stop sign. I've talked about this not as much, but one thing my son's been going through a lot lately is he wants to hit and kick and throw and spit. And it doesn't seem like it's coming out of malice. He's just like doing it, right? He's just like doing it to see what'll happen. And like, it takes all of my self-control to like, not just like snatch him up by the shirt collar and go, don't you ever fucking do that again, right? And like, don't fucking hit me. And I just like, I refrain and model patience and just go, okay, if you want to do that, you're going to go in your room for 3 minutes. And today he tested my patience because I was like, you throw that thing at me, you're going to your room for 3 minutes. Threw it, go in his room for 3 minutes. Starts picking up other things to throw at me. I go, you're going to get 3 minutes out of for everything you throw. And he's just like, try me, old man. And just starts throwing stuff. He's got a 15-minute timer going. And he's still throwing stuff. But I closed the door at this point. So he's just throwing at the closed door. And I was just like, he comes out of his room because I didn't want to lock him in there. Comes out and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I got to pivot. Because like, I'm not just going to like have this kid sit in a closed door room until bedtime. Clearly it's not working. Whatever. I was like, okay, you throw one more thing. We're going and sitting in the car and listening to whatever dad wants while you're strapped into your car seat. And he was like, oh crap, I would lose all my freedom. But I remained patient instead of like, you are not Patches O'Houlihan and I am not trying to dodge a wrench. Like, stop this.
Right.
Kind of attitude. So yeah,
I like it.
That's a huge one. Just with anything they're doing, because they want to test those boundaries. They want to see what they can get away with, and showing them patience, I think, can show them how they should react when they get in frustrating situations. And I guess I'm next again. So, because you took 2 of my 3 for college and adult, I'll go ahead and use my third pick here, but financial guidance, right? I think this applies, a lot, especially if the kid's going to college, but that post high school period of time, whether or not they're going to college. But in a lot of those scenarios, they may be still somewhat financially dependent on their parents, right? If the parents are paying tuition, or if, the parents are helping with housing or whatever that might be. But I think it's like a learning opportunity, right? It's this like controlled environment more than an allowance, where I remember my dad, when we were in college, he, at least for like the last 2 years of college, he basically just like cut me a check for all of my money that I had for the year. And I had to figure out how to do it. He goes, I want to prepare you, for the real world and like budgeting and all this stuff. I get out in the real world and I go, man, I ain't had a job yet that gives me all my salary at the beginning of the year. Like, they still give it to me in bi-monthly or monthly increments. So, but the premise is still there of like, okay,
sure.
You've got a budget, you've got to know, you've got to understand like that, you want to go out an extra night. That's going to have an impact on what you can get at the grocery store, or how much you can go out to eat, or those kinds of things, and what the smart decisions might be. So, but I think it's really a big chance and an opportunity to help them make good decisions that can set them up for like, okay, you want to buy a car or get a house or start making these adult decisions, like this, like deciding, whether you can go out an extra night or not is kind of key in helping you make these kind of bigger decisions. It's that litmus test. That I think financial, in a lot of scenarios, they still got that safety net of like, man, if you were really, if you really made some bad decisions and you didn't have enough money for food, you might get a talking to, but you're still going to get some money to buy some groceries. Like, all that.
Yeah, and I would just throw general financial literacy in there. I think that's a great pick.
Sure.
So yeah. All right. So with the last 2 picks of the draft, I've got.
I got one more.
Oh no! Oh right, you've got flex. That's
the final.
So for my last 2, I'm gonna go with high school first, and I wrote this down as a driving instruction. But I think more just like I want to expand on that to just be, you called it like mentoring and managing, but I'm thinking more just like actual life skills, and I wanted to
teaching
harp
real
in
world
on
skills is how I wrote this down in my
right.
picks of driving, time management, self care.
Okay, yeah. So basically, just for those of you who listen to to our episode with Dave Ubben from The Athletic, I went into this a bit, but I taught my wife how to drive.
Sure.
She the fact that it was a little bit different than I assume my parents teaching me, a 16-year-old or 15-year-old boy at the time, how to drive. But, I at least had the pleasure of teaching somebody who was aware of their own mortality. So there wasn't a lot of slow down. There was like, can you speed up, please? Because, cars are just passing us and we got places to be. You can go a little faster. But having gone through the motions of teaching somebody how to drive, I realize how important that's going to be when you're dealing with a kid who just kind of wants to roll and have that independence. And, I felt, I personally think high school is a great time to also kind of teach your kids how to drink responsibly. That's more of like an in the house thing, but it is something where I feel like and part of this is anecdotal. Part of this is just like you can FOIA a bunch of police reports. But if you look at a lot of college towns, most of the stomach pumps and hospital visits happen that like orientation week of college, because kids, it's their first time out on their own. They don't know their limits. They don't know the impacts of alcohol on their body. I think honestly, teaching your kids how to drink while they can be in a controlled environment is actually useful. Like, this is what this tastes like. This is what that tastes like. Do you feel like you've had a little too much? Here's some water. I'm not trying to get my kids drunk by any means. I just do think there is an opportunity where you can teach people how to drink responsibly, so that when they're off on their own and they are facing that kind of peer pressure and a little bit of freedom, they might be a little better prepared, So I didn't actually think about that beforehand. It just kind of came to me right now. So I said it, but fun little story. My mom told me that when she first got to high school, before she was allowed to go out, not just to like a party, but on dates, my grandpa lined up a bunch of clear liquors in shot glasses, and my mom had to be able to identify them by smell, because if anybody put anything in her drink, she would know. And I was like, man, that's intense. I don't know if I'm going to go that route, but
I also don't know if that's accurate. And maybe that was accurate in our parents' time at that point, but like, I don't know. There's a little bit of like, sometimes you think that there's like hyperbole from like law enforcement on like what the effects are or what these things can do and whatever. But I'm also thinking like the chemistry has evolved of like something being put in your drink may not be noticeable. Also, like different whiskeys and beers and whatever can just smell different. Right?
Yeah. It wasn't a perfect science, but I like the concept. Nope. I like the fact that he made sure my mom was prepared for the real world. This is something I thought I'd share. Yeah. All right. And with my final pick, I was stalling a bit for infant toddler because I really enjoyed your answer being like all encompassing, and I was actually honing in on specific skill sets, but I'm just going to go with it. I think diapers is just like a very good, useful skill for a dad to have. And so I'm going to use my last pick on diapers.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, I've got my flex pick left, right?
Yeah.
And I am going to do unconditional love.
Oh, such a sap. Great answer.
A sap, but a fantastic answer. Because I think through all of this, with whatever you're doing, letting your kids know that no matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter what choices they've made, that you love them at any point. They can screw up when they're toddlers, they can screw up when they're in elementary school, and they can definitely screw up all the way through adulthood. And like knowing that you love them and it doesn't matter whether or not they screwed up, that part of it is not going to change. Like, I can be mad at you, I can be frustrated with you, but I love you. That to me, I picked that as my flex because I think that's the ultimate one. So I was happy when you didn't take that anywhere, but I figured that might be safe. A little sappy.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. You know, I'm big on the last thing I say to both kids every day, and usually the first thing and throughout the day is I love you. And you know, one time you know, my older kid, this wasn't last night, but not just one time, but sometimes she says, "You don't love me, or else you wouldn't be mad at me." And I've had to say, actually, the reason I'm mad right now is because I do love you. Like, if I didn't love you, I wouldn't really care, and we wouldn't be arguing right now because I wouldn't be invested in your improvement. So, but yeah, I couldn't agree more. So this is a fun little exercise, fun little draft. I think there's no doubt in my mind that I will win tomorrow's fantasy football draft. So, you know, ooh, look at you.
Yeah.
Good job. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So those of you not watching, I highly recommend jumping on right around the 1 hour mark. I just dropped our draft board where we actually finished. Screenshotted from my Apple Notes app.
Look at that.
But you know, this is what we got. So do a quick audio recap here. But for baby toddler, I picked supporting mom/partner. Ethan picked diaper changes. For preschooler, I picked modeling patience. Ethan picked enjoying to play. For elementary school, I said enjoying curiosity. Ethan said homework support. Middle school, I said listening without judgment. Ethan said toughness. High school, I said mentoring, not managing. Ethan said teaching real world skills. College/adult, I said financial guidance. Ethan said transition to friend. And for our flex pick, I said unconditional love. And Ethan said dad jokes.
They are needed your whole life.
Yeah. So anyway, let us know in the comments. Let us know on social media, wherever you want to, who you think won, who you think had the better draft board. And I will just say that tomorrow night, I hope to once again have a better draft than you, just like tonight. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. We will be back next Thursday with another great episode, assuming one of us isn't traveling or doing something. I never really know at this point, but you know, we'll figure it out. So we will see you next week, and thanks for working on the Dad Pod with us.
Go Canes, 1-0, baby.